We're joined by, well, men who know a bit about high performance and the need thereof for athletes. Vince Barnes, former South African cricketer, Cricket South Africa head of high performance and former Proteas bowling coach. Alongside Vince is Rocco Mering, award-winning swimming coach and mentor to, well, South African, Tatiana Schoonmaker. Welcome, gentlemen. How are you doing tonight?
Good evening. All good. All good. Thanks.
Good. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Vince, maybe let me start with you. I mean, founder of the Barnes Prince Foundation, which creates opportunities for young people to realize their full potential in sports. But what I like about the line that says education as well as business. When we speak high performance, we tend not to even think of that. We always think, well, results.
Yeah, look, I mean, that's what people think. High performance is quite vast. It's spread across a vast spectrum, and it's as part of our foundation, that's what it is. It's not just to look after the best athletes, but it's also to develop human beings through education. So that's part of our foundation, and so is part of our cricket high performance department. It's always been like that. We're not just to develop top cricketers, because not everybody's going to play for the Proteas. I mean, we've just had an intake now, a National Academy intake, which started last week, and we got 18 young cricketers there, and unfortunately, not everyone's going to be a Protea, but we're going to provide them with the resources and the tools to get there. It's now in their hands, where the career goes, but we just got to provide that. Some of them will become doctors or lawyers or something else, but that's what high performance is. That's from my department.
Let me bring you in there, Rocco. 5 times in a row, you earned the prestigious Swami Award for African Coach of the Year, following success of some of the athletes, your swimmers, Peter, Tatiana, Kayleen, Erin. I think I always say there's something about coaches that we don't really understand. The coach somewhat becomes that mother or father, because it takes a bit to understand when the athlete will peak, why the athlete will peak, what they need for that athlete to be at the highest performance, which is what we're speaking about today.
Look, I can't speak for other coaches. I wish I always knew, but I don't. But definitely the role of the coach at that level is to be obviously at the cutting edge on a technical level internationally, but also to be that anchor in that athlete's life when things don't go their way, when they need to fall back on somebody they trust and somebody they spend a lot of time with. And invariably, as a coach, you fulfill that role.
And sometimes, I was speaking to, when I was doing that Sascock story, Rocco, I saw Tatiana there, and we had a bit of a chat. I saw the likes of Casa Sumia there. We had a chat with them, and they were saying how important to have OPEX back, Operation Excellence, in particular for athletes, in particular for everyone, basically, because, and it was evident when OPEX ended post-2016, the lull showed in Japan. How important is it to get athletes at that cutting level, as you just said, get them prepared in time for major competitions? Because South Africans are finicky. We want, wins. We don't care what happens behind the scenes.
It's critical. The amount of stress and uncertainty that the athlete and the coach goes through when they don't know whether they will have the resources to prepare properly has got it's got an enormous effect on their confidence, on their motivation, on the planning. So if you don't have the resources, you're basically playing catch up all the time. You're living in hope all the time. That's what we went through preparing for Tokyo. We were very fortunate that we had support from the university and parents and funders and sponsors, but it's not the way it should be. If the country wants performances and they want results, then it's the country's responsibility to invest in their athletes make sure that they can deliver those results.
Yeah, and the importance of high-performance centres, Vinny, is what it's all about, isn't it? I mean, Pretoria, yes, we've got that, and UP, we've got high-performance centres at some of the big universities in the country. But again, I'll bring you in, a bit of your history. When you played back in your days, it's also got to do with opportunity, not necessarily high-performance, opportunity of being given a chance. Yes, once you're given a chance, whether you're Makhaya and Tini, all of a sudden you go from Dingy to bowling at Lords. That chance and being in the right place at the right time also comes into play.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think Rocco's hit the nail on the head. Without the resources, we wouldn't have had that. Makhaya wouldn't have been bowling at Lords. Resources are and obviously it comes at a cost. And that's, and I feel for, the sports like swimming, where hockey, some of the smaller sports. I'm not having a go at the sports, but where there's not a lot of resources and financial backing. Unfortunately, we have got a fantastic centre of excellence at Pretoria University, which caters for all our teams, men and women, all the facilities. And yeah, look, it's basically getting now the opportunities, getting selected, getting the opportunities. We have such a very busy this coming winter now. In fact, we just had like I said, the National Academy started now. We've got the SN19 coming in this week. They're going on a tour to Bangladesh in July. SA team comes in the end of the month. They're preparing for their tour to Sri Lanka. And the Women's Academy starts next month. So there's a lot going on at the moment, but this can only happen if we have money. And the resources available to produce the next, tier of cricketers, national cricketers, men and women. And like I said, I feel for, and I've seen Rocco work before. That's where I met Rocco at Tuks. It's tough. It's tough on you. And it's even affected cricket because financially we've also felt the pinch, and COVID has also played its part in stalling our cricket. So, yeah, I just feel that in order for these players to get the recognition and the Makhaya to be picked up in Dingy, and we got to find. You can only get them if we got the resources.
I mean, those resources, Rocco, come at a huge expense. I remember, I think back in the days when I did Australia, I think it was the Melbourne Commonwealth Games. And we're just discussing and doing stories on how much England had put into their swimming team, or in fact Australia at that particular games, and they cleaned up in the pool just on swimming alone. I think it was a couple of $100 million. And when I think that South Africa, I think we share a pie in as far as sports is concerned, about 53 odd million rands for all the sporting federations under SASCOC. It's also got to do with the pocket.
Yeah, I think we have so much talent in this country. I worked abroad for a while, and I came back because I realized how much talent we actually have in this country. That is untapped. And, that's the frustration, and I'm sure Vinny would feel the same. You actually cannot understand why we don't have more financial backing to try and untap more and more of the incredible talent that we have that are sitting all over South Africa. In order for me to keep going, and what inspires me would be to look at the Kenyan middle distance running. They have the basics, they have the fundamentals. They don't have anything in abundance. And the same with the Jamaican sprinting program. But they at least have the basics. And I think that's where we need to start. As the gentleman from SASCOC said, this is a start. Hopefully, it will be more consistent, and we can plan better. Because our biggest frustration is, will we have the money next year? And will we have the money in time for LA? Now, I hear they're talking about LA, and that's what we need. That's what would inspire a youngster to say, I'm actually going to stay in the country, and I'm going to continue to try and make that team because it looks as though there will be support. If I may, the next step for us is to tag on to a sport like cricket that are miles ahead of swimming in terms of athlete management and athlete welfare and talent management. Instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, cricket has done it, and they've done it successfully. And that's something that we could actually get a shortcut on cheaper for other sports to actually go and learn best practice from cricket.
I hear exactly what you're saying, Rocco. I mean, Vinny did speak of, I like to call them Cinderella sports in the country. And when you find that we go to these championships, they're the ones who actually bring in most medals and most joy, so to speak. Like swimming, like canoeing. I mean, all of a sudden we saw canoeing gold medals, at Olympic Games. But Vinny, I think the importance as well, what Rocco is saying, it's the support, one. It's the dedication, two. It's conversations we've had, things like nutrition play a role. Things like, making sure that mentally athletes know exactly what they're getting into. And that's what they would get at being involved in high performance programs, which is what I think Rocco is saying is being offered in abundance by the big boys, cricket, rugby, soccer, so to speak.
Yeah, I think, if I just look at our National Academy program, which was firstly, obviously we had to put together a group of people to run the National Academy. Coach Malibongi Maketa, who coaches the National Academy. Between him and myself, we put together a team of his management team, and then from there, sort of identify areas that we need to focus on at the National Academy. And it's been quite interesting that the past couple of weeks, it's been what you've just spoken about now. It's about dietitians. They've got dietitians. They've got psychologists. In fact, sleep patterns are getting monitored. There's such a lot happening at the moment. It's quite interesting, and but obviously that comes at a cost. And unfortunately, we had a budget for that so that we could bring in all these experts and to assist our National Academy boys with that. And so that's it. Like I said, it does come at the cost, but it is available to us, and we've worked it into our budget to ensure that the players do get the necessary expert knowledge from these guys, so that they can prepare themselves better going forward in their careers. It's being a South African cricketer is one thing, but it's maintaining that level of cricket. It's not just about bat and ball, it's off the field as well. It's to ensure that you can stay fit and strong mentally, and obviously the mental, as far as I'm concerned, plays a massive role. Especially in this day and age, there's so much happening, and one bad performance, and players feel it. It's all over social media. You can't hide from these things anymore. So it's become massive in our game, in all sports. But yeah, look, it's unfortunately we've got it's going to cost us quite a bit, but we've got some experts coming in, on a weekly basis to come and work with our academy boys. And look, with all the teams, whether it be the Proteas men's team, Protea women's team, under 19s, with the under 19 women preparing for the World Cup, we had to bring in whatever the coach felt she needed. At times, bring in a psychologist, bring in a dietitian to come and assist with their preparation for World Cup. So, it's very, very important.
And I'm not going to compare, apples and oranges here, Rocco. The importance of then what Vinny is explaining, as a coach, because, swimming is a single athlete sport, unlike team sport where the other three are concerned. That then falls literally directly onto your shoulders. You need to be able to see that, look, so-and-so is not having a good day. How then do I tweak them back? Do I bring in that, psychologist? Do I bring in the biokineticist? All these things fall on your shoulders, and that is how important that funding is. Just a ballpark figure. An athlete of Rocco's is going to the Olympic Games. Rocco needs to be there. This athlete is swimming 3 events at the Olympics. In terms of financially, the input that a coach has to put in. And I say this to you directly because you are an athlete-driven coach, unlike the sporting teams.
Do you want to know how much money it costs, how much minimum it costs per athlete? Is that what you're asking me?
Well, yes, if you can go there, yes.
Minimum 500,000 a year.
Just on the coaching alone?
No, on not the coaching alone, but if you're going to sustain an athlete that cannot afford to pay for him or herself at all, you're going to look at minimum 500,000. I work for the university. That's why I'm based at the university. The athletes don't pay me to coach them. So the Olympians that swim with me, their coaching is for free. My situation is maybe unique because if they were at a club that was not based at the university, it might have been different. But if you start looking at what you can get for free from the university and what you have to pay in addition, because the university can't devote a team of professionals solely for that 1 or 2 or 3 athletes.
Yeah.
So what we do get is we get fragmented time from professionals up to a point. And then we have to start paying because these people also work in a commercial environment. We have to pay for their travel, their studies, their food, their accommodation. And we have to pay for international competitions for them to qualify or for international major competitions to compete at. Now, at the rand-dollar exchange rate that what it is now, it's minimum 500,000 per athlete, minimum.
Okay, we have to wrap it up, gentlemen, but I've got to ask you, Rocco, whilst I'm still with you, projections, with OPEX now kicking off. I know that we hate doing this, but I'm going to ask you this. What do you think with the maturing swimmers that we have? What are your projections for LA 2027? And I specifically ask for LA because I think 2024 it's next week, so I do not want to put as much pressure on that. Your projections as far as swimming is concerned overall. I mean, our swimming looks as if it's going back to the glory old days, so to speak, inverted commas.
I think, well, firstly, it's fantastic that Bidvest came on board. It is exactly what was needed, and I think they are spot on in terms of finding a niche for their support and their sponsorship. My projection is that we have a very good crop of young upcoming swimmers that are now at a point where they are threatening the existing lot. So if we can sustain them, and if we don't put too much pressure on them too soon, then they would be at the right age and at the right level in LA. There's no question about it. Laura van Niekerk, Pieter Coetzee, Matthew Sates, and more of them are now starting to show themselves, which is a natural phenomenon. They get inspired by the previous lot and they want to do better. It's all about the management of that talent. You've got to be very careful how you manage it, how you support it, and what expectations are there on them. But it's not as though we don't have them. We have them.
Yeah, Rocco, let me bring Vinny there. In fact, Rocco, I think I saw Roland Skuman at the Nationals. 40-something? Yeah, he's still swimming.
That was interesting.
Vinny, I think then with you, I mean, also just to wrap it up, I think Cricket South Africa is, hinting at possibly bringing in director of women's cricket, also extending a number of the contracted players. And of course, now, as you saw earlier in our bulletin, we've got, the outbound tour to Australia. Again, the success of the ladies at the T20 and the Under-19, or the World Cup as both the Under-19 and senior, it gives impetus in as far as, the sponsors and the mother body saying, go out there and do some, you're doing a good job.
Yeah, look, it's been fantastic both for the Under-19s and the women. Both had good World Cups. The Under-19s were unfortunate that, net run rate caught up with them. But, and our senior women's team, the Proteas, they just lost in the final. But, it just shows the amount of the improvement that's happened in women's cricket. The women's cricket at the moment is is exploding really. So, You know, there's so much happening at the moment. If I think back just to 2 years ago when SN19 women, we didn't have an SN19 woman. And then we had a 19 week about a year and a half ago. And teams are getting bowled out for 20, 25. And, you know, and we're thinking there's a World Cup in 2 years' time. You're thinking, wow. But the amount of time and effort spent with these young ladies, prepping them, you know, and obviously with major challenges because a lot of them at school, you know, for them to come there and perform. But in December last year, again, we had the under 19 week, and all of a sudden it was different. You know, the different scores, you know, scores were a lot higher. And then we played, so we had quite a big squad of players. We had to narrow it down to 24. So we had a few trial matches, and again, very, very good matches, high scores. Teams were chasing it down, so a massive improvement there. And the program continues now. You know, they've finished with the World Cup, but the next 2 years in 2025 is another World Cup. So preparation for that World Cup starts. You know, as low down as under 16 and under 17 level. So it's that process has already started. So yeah, look, it's we've had some players that have retired, some big players that have retired, but it just gives opportunities now to some of the others that have been knocking on the door.
Vinny Barnes, Rocco Mering, thank you very much indeed for joining me, gentlemen. It's been an interesting conversation. We can go on for 2 hours. There's so many questions I still like to ask you, but unfortunately we've run out of time. Thank you indeed for your time, and you know, we'll be looking out for you guys and definitely be following your especially with you and your foundation, Vinny, and you, Rocco, all those athletes. We're hoping that will do South Africa proud as far as the various competitions.